welcome to this morning's Bhagavatam reading. We'll start with prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire. Nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. Krishnaya vasudevaya devaki nandanaya cha nanda gopa kumaraya govindaya namo namaha. So today we are reading from Canto 3, which is the status quo, and this is chapter 32. Which is entanglement in fruitive activities. Just to make sure you're able to see my screen, I hope.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So it's verse number 23. And the verse is actually very familiar. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janayati Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Yad Brahma Darshanam. This last line, of course, is slightly different, but the rest of the verse is very familiar. So we'll go on with the synonyms, word for word. Vasudeve, unto Krishna. Bhagavati, the personality of Godhead. Bhakti Yoga, devotional service. Prayojitaha, discharged. Janayati, produces. Ashu, very soon. Vairagyam, detachment. Jnanam, knowledge. Yat, which. Brahma Darshanam, self-realization. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Engagement in Krishna consciousness and application of devotional service unto Krishna make it possible to advance in knowledge and detachment, as well as in self-realization. Purport. It is said by less intelligent men that bhakti yoga or devotional service is meant for persons who are not advanced in transcendental knowledge and renunciation. But the fact is that if one engages in devotional service of the Lord in full Krishna consciousness, he does not have to attempt separately to practice detachment or to wait for an awakening of transcendental knowledge. It is said that one who engages unflinchingly in the devotional service of the Lord actually has all the good qualities of the demigods develop in him automatically. It happens. There is one instance where a hunter was taking pleasure in killing animals, but after becoming a devotee, he was not prepared to kill even an ant. Such is the quality of a devotee. Those who are very eager to advance in transcendental knowledge can engage themselves in pure devotional service without wasting time in mental speculation. For arriving at the positive conclusions of knowledge in the absolute truth, the word Brahmadarshanam is significant in this verse. Brahmadarshanam means to realize or to understand the transcendence. One who engages in the service of Vasudeva can actually realize what Brahman is. If Brahman is impersonal, then there is no question of darshanam, which means seeing face to face. Darshanam refers to seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. Unless the seer and the seen are persons, there is no darshanam. Brahma darshanam means that as soon as one sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he can at once realize what impersonal Brahman is. A devotee does not need to make separate investigations to understand the nature of Brahman. Bhagavad Gita also confirms this. Brahma bhuyaya kalpate. A devotee at once becomes a self-realized soul in the absolute truth. Let's say the Mangalacharan prayers. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Welcome again, dear devotees, to this morning's Bhagavatam reading. Um, I feel fortunate to have another opportunity to read the Bhagavatam. Of course, I feel completely unqualified, especially in this high topic of bhakti versus jnana and renunciation. But I'm speaking mainly for my purification. And before I start, I seek the blessings of my Guru Maharaj and all of you assembled devotees, so that we may share and realize something of some benefit to all of us. So the chapter is entanglement in fruitive activities. It kind of sounds like my life, the story of my life. Um, so a little bit of background. Kapila Dev is continuing to talk to Mother Devahuti. In the previous chapter, he instructed about the movement of the living entities, and he gave elaborate description of the jiva, starting from the mother's womb and all the sufferings it has to endure there, and then through the different stages of life until death. And all of this is happening in Kapila Dev says in the bad association of Maya Devi, Maya. And now Kapila Dev kind of has double clicked, into that in a sense, and he's talking about why, right? And that why is our various attachments and entanglements that we have in this material world. That's what he has been talking about. In the prior verses, we've been hearing from various speakers about the various types of people, right? There are some who go through the dharma, artha, kama cycle, and they go through this again and again, and without any interest in Krishna consciousness. They just they're focusing on dharma, artha, and fulfilling the lust. And such kind of people we've heard, are headed to the pitras, or to the moon planet. And while there is some enjoyment there, and some different kinds of experiences, but those are also impermanent, right? And so soon, they return back to this planet. And the thing that we heard, and this is some of those verses, the thing that we heard is that this repeated cycle of birth and death is the destiny not only for the gross sense gratifiers, but even the demigods, and even our creator Brahma, if they have self-interest, which is opposed to Krishna's interest. It's called Bheda Drishtya, which is independent vision to the Lord. They have to come back. So it's not just just us fallen people, but even them. And in fact, in text 12 to 15, Kapila Dev specifically said, He said, "My dear mother, someone may worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead with a special self interest, but even such demigods such as Lord Brahma, great sages such as Sanat Kumar, and great munis such as Marichi have to come back to the material world again at the time of creation. When the interaction of the three modes of material nature begins, Brahma, who is the creator of this cosmic manifestation and who is full of Vedic knowledge, and the great sages who are authors of the spiritual path and the yoga system, come back under the influence of the time factor. They are liberated by their non fruitive activities and attain the first incarnation of the Purusha. But at the time of creation, they come back in exactly the same forms and positions they previously had. So it's like, real, just go through all those things, but then come back to the same position, come back in the exact forms and positions that they previously had. And we know, even from Bhagavad Gita, that even the pious, or like we heard, when they're raised to the higher planets and Swarga, etc., they have to come back once their results are exhausted. Shine punne nityaloke vishanti. And so Mother Devahuti is actually is being advised by Kapila Dev in these text 22 and 23. Yesterday was text 22. So he tells Mother Devahuti very directly to take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he's saying, I therefore advise that you take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Why? Because his lotus feet is the only object worthy of worship. And so he says, accept this with all devotion and love, for thus you can be situated in transcendental devotional service. So that's his first advice. And then he goes on to today's verse, in which he says, engagement in Krishna consciousness and application of devotional service unto Krishna makes it possible to advance in knowledge and detachment as well as in self-realization. So, um, again, I mean, this is this verse. So basically, Kapila Dev is saying that by engaging in Krishna consciousness, everything else can be achieved, right? And this verse is so important that it appears twice in Srimad Bhagavatam, right? At least 75% of it appears twice. And the first time it appeared was in Canto 1, Chapter 2, when Suta Goswami, while answering the first question, the sages of Naimisharanya, as we know, performed 1,000-year yagya, and that was to neutralize the bad effects of Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga had started, Krishna had left, and they knew that things are so bad in Kali Yuga. People are fallen, engaged in kalaha, and so they asked a question, which was to Suta Goswami, which was to summarize the whole range of revealed scriptures and to present the most essential parts, because they said that the fallen people of this yuga are unfortunate. They have short lives. You know, their intelligence is not at the level that they can understand all the scriptures that have been presented and written. So the Vedas, etc. And so their question to Sutta Goswami was, please summarize that whole range of revealed scriptures so that the people of Kali Yuga can understand and you know realize and actually take it up. And so in Sutta Goswami had responded with two verses again. He had talked about this verse, which is 1.2.6. He said that Savaipum Shamparo Dharmo Yato Bhakti Radhokshaje Ahaitukya Prati Hata Yayatma Suprasidati, which is the supreme occupation or dharma for all humanity by that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendental Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. So we can see the link, and also Rupa Goswami has given a very similar um, definition of pure devotional service. Right? Anyabhilashyata shunyam jnana karmadhyana pratam. And then, so this is the first verse that he responds with, and then the second verse that he talks about is this verse, 1.2.7, which is very similar to today's verse. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janayati Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayad Ahaitukam. So, except that last line, the verses are the same. So, the translation being, by rendering devotional service unto the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. Right? So, um, Janayati Ashu, very soon Vairagyam is achieved, and Jnanam, one can achieve Ahaituki without any cause, the knowledge that one needs. And today's verse, so instead of this line, in today's verse, we have Jnanam Yad Brahma Darshanam, and Prabhupada translates this as self realization. So one can achieve Vairagyam very quickly, and um, through knowledge, Brahma Darshanam. Right? So in both of these verses, basically by applying bhakti yoga prayojitya, by applying oneself, executing devotional service to Krishna, one can acquire all of these great qualities, which big, gyanis, yogis put a lot of effort, for many, many years. We hear about so many in the Bhagavatam that, gyanis and yogis um, spend thousands of years and lifetimes to achieve. So now coming to the purport, Prabhupada talks about, he says that it is said by less intelligent men that bhakti yoga or devotional service is meant for persons who are not advanced in transcendental knowledge and renunciation. He says, but the fact is that if one engages in the devotional service of the Lord in full Krishna consciousness, he does not have to attempt separately. He does not have to attempt separately to practice detachment or to wait for an awakening of transcendental knowledge. So it is said that one who engages unflinchingly in the devotional service of the Lord actually has all the good qualities of the demigods develop in him automatically. So very clearly, Bhakti Yoga, is the topmost, is the highest yoga. And so there is no necessity to pursue anything else, right? So the most intelligent, and Prabhupada has also talked about this many times, go directly to bhakti. And he's given this analogy as well, that it's the elevator, as opposed to going step by step through jnana, yoga, ashtanga yoga, and so on, and vairagyam. It's like, you have to climb up a 25-story building, say, right? You have to go to the top. So the people that are, the Ashtanga yogis, they start out on their own strength, put in a lot of effort, but soon become exhausted. It's a very austere situation, climbing up so many floors. And so, they rest, stop along the way. Some are so exhausted, just fall off from the process and, go back and just cannot go any further. Now, at that time, if someone steps out of the elevator and says, "Oh, why are you struggling so much? There's an elevator. You can come up," without putting so much effort. So that's what, as Prabhupada has explained so many times, that's what the intelligent do, right? They take the path of bhakti without going through those multiple steps. And um, also, Prabhupada again has mentioned so many times that um, by focusing on bhakti, independence of the Lord, right? Not independently, but independence of the Lord, one starts to get realization immediately, right? Some reciprocation happens immediately, and that gives the devotee, the practicing devotee, even the person who's trying, all good qualities, including knowledge and renunciation. Now, of course, the bhakti has to be, there are some criteria, has to be to the Supreme Lord Krishna, not to some impersonal Brahman or demigods or anything like that. And as Prabhupada says in his purport, unflinching has to be unflinching devotional service of the Lord. Not something vague, you know, because only by through unflinching devotional service of the Lord, one gains all these good qualities. And so Prabhupada continues to say, he says that one cannot discover how such good qualities develop in the body of a devotee, but it actually happens. Right? So, there's no need to even, look why and how, but it happens, right? And there are many examples of this. Prabhupada is talking here about a hunter that was taking pleasure in killing animals, but after becoming a devotee, he was not prepared to kill even an ant. Such is the quality of a devotee. And we know who this is, right? It's Mrigari. Mrigari, who used to half kill animals and used to take pleasure in seeing them suffer, bleeding and screaming in pain. When he met Narad Muni, and Narad Muni instructed him and opened his eyes and led him to dedicate his life to bhakti, Mrigari transformed completely. Right? And we know that the next time Narad Muni came to visit him along with Parvat Muni, they were surprised to see that the way he was walking, he was trying to avoid even the ants on the ground. He would not even hurt the ant. We know of Jagai Madhai, who were drunkards and completely abominable. People used to avoid them. They were terrible in all so many different ways. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, um, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not teach them Vedanta or Ashtanga Yoga or renunciation to change them, right? He gave them the Mahamantra, right? And so through bhakti, they were transformed so spectacularly. And many others. In contemporary example is our Prabhupada and his Srila Prabhupada's disciples, are gurus. In the early days, there were so many of them that Prabhupada came across were hippies with all sorts of bad habits, addictions. They were breaking the regulative principles left and right as a way of living, right? That was their way of living. But somehow they got attached to Prabhupada. They used to come to hear, listen to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada who would himself cook for them, and so they would honor the prasadam. And Prabhupada touched their lives in so many ways that with the mercy, given to them through Prabhupada and Krishna, all these young hippies gave up all the bad habits, gave up meat eating, all the addictions and bad things that they were indulging in, and became so qualified, right? I mean, stalwarts. They are, they are the ones who are enlightening so many of us jivas all over the world now, and how they have so nicely, expanded Prabhupada's mission. Now, of course, in Kali Yuga, unfortunately, everything is topsy-turvy, and so more importance is given to jnana and yoga. But but the fact that bhakti is topmost was demonstrated by Mahaprabhu, um, with in so many instances. One was with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, the other was with Prakashananda Saraswati. All of these stories and incidents are so heartwarming, right? How Mahaprabhu, you know, very humbly met with them and transformed them. And of course, Mahaprabhu has made, as we know, has made this Kali Yuga most fortunate. That which was, which yogis and big sadhakas um, did not get, easily. Mahaprabhu gave made it so simple for the Kali Yuga um, inhabitants, right? Which is, through Mahamantra, giving the way to Krishna Prem. So, coming back to the purport, in the final paragraph, Prabhupada talks about, he elaborates on Brahma Darshanam. Right? So he says that Brahma Darshanam, which means to realize or to understand the transcendence. One who engages in the service of Vasudev can actually realize what Brahman is. If Brahman is impersonal, then there is no question of darshanam, which means seeing face to face. So Prabhupada here talks about the fact that that the Lord is personal, right? He is the supreme personality of Godhead. He says darshanam refers to seeing the supreme personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. And this face to face darshan is also the desire of the devotees, right? For the devotee, there's no such thing as liberation into the Brahman. It is, seeing. That's the aspiration. That's what we want, to serve the Lord, to see Him face to face. And so, as Prabhupada says, that darshanam implies that the Lord is a person. He's the supreme personality of Godhead. And he also explains that by realizing the Lord, the impersonal Brahman is also realized, because we know that there are three stages of realization, right? Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan. So the devotee is never satisfied by just Brahman realization, right? And if you imagine going to the temple, and if you just see a bright light on the altar instead of our beautiful Radha Shyam Sundar, Radha Madhav, Gauranga Mahaprabhu, just a bright light, that would, just to think of it, that would not be satisfying at all, right? So, yeah, the devotee definitely, wants that darshan with the Lord face to face. Or if you bring it closer to our level of experience, if you think about, say, we are waiting for a friend to come visit us, right? And we are waiting in the evening when it's dark, and suddenly we can see a bright light of a car approaching, right? And we get excited. Okay, he or she is coming. Now, if the bright light were just to, show that bright light and go past, then it would not, it would not be the same as meeting the person, right? Because there's no, no exchange, no rasa, no love. And so, we have to have that personal touch, right? That personal meeting. So Prabhupada says that the a devotee here, he says a devotee does not need to make separate investigations to understand the nature of Brahman. Bhagavad Gita also confirms this. Brahma bhuyaya kalpate. A devotee at once becomes a self-realized soul in the absolute truth. So, again, the focus is not on Brahman, although this verse talks about Jnanam Yad Brahma Darshanam. The focus is on darshan, self-realization and darshan of the Lord, by which Brahman becomes automatically realized. So, in conclusion, I'm remembering a verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita, which Prabhupada talks about many times. It's Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami Shakali Ashanta Krishna Bhakta Nishkam Ataev Shanta. So the translation is, I have it here. Yeah, it's from Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 19:149. So it says, because a devotee of Lord Krishna is desireless, he is peaceful. Fruitive workers desire material enjoyment, jnanis desire liberation, and yogis desire material opulence. Therefore, they are all lusty and cannot be peaceful. So, while we are, I'm definitely not at a stage where I can call myself a bona fide Krishna Bhakta, but simply by remembering to keep Krishna in the center of everything that we do, it gives the hope, right? Gives the hope of aligning our desires with Krishna and the conviction that avashya rakshibe Krishna. With that, one can be peaceful, right? And so, with faith and patience, and we hear about this so many times from all the lectures that we must, with patience, dharya, and utsaha, we must keep on pursuing on the path of bhakti, because really that is the only way, right? It's the only way, and we've heard from this verse as well, that with bhakti, to Krishna, all other qualities, everything else will manifest, including renunciation and indifference, that to material life, which will ultimately lead to an end to this material entanglement. So, yeah, so let's take shelter and continue to endeavor to please our Guru, please Krishna, and somehow stay focused, right, on attaining the unflinching devotional service that Prabhupada talks about here. And with that, as he says, and as this verse says, everything else that we desire for, or even not desire for, but we will become deserving of. So, yeah, I'll stop here. Thank you very much. Sorry if I misspoke anything. Please add or correct. Okay, if not, we will stop here.
Ada jarak
Sure.
kick thing in Panduranga. Have you ever? I'm just curious. Have you ever thought Lord is impersonal in your life? It's a question to you. I'm sorry.
Haven't I haven't heard Lord is impersonal.
No, have you
Um,
thought in your life
or have I thought? I see.
when we don't know anything about, when we just see things? I mean, did we ever get a concept of that Lord is not a person? He's this, he's that. Did you ever had that situation in your life?
Well, one thing is nature, right? I mean, often, um, how do things, how does everything happen? Um, we see the flowers, we see the rain and everything. Um, Sometimes the thought comes that it is just attributed to nature, right? Not linking it to that personal, you know, God, personal Krishna. Sometimes we may kind of, I know you're asking me specifically, I mean, I've heard people talk about it that, it's just nature, right? It's not really Krishna, not really God that you're talking about. So
Even
I guess
people have a, when people say nature, they can see and touch, except few subtle things. But I mean, we don't. When I was a kid, I don't even know the subtle means. Honestly, nature is what you see around. What you see around is called nature for us, for me. So I was curious, trying to see how devotees used to think when they were small, and because we went through so much, right? 50 plus, and uh, how interesting it is, that we don't even know that the God is impersonal. Honestly, actually, for me, after coming to Krishna conscious, only I came to know that God is impersonal. Before that, I have never had an idea that God is impersonal. I always see temple deity is a person. I mean, I don't even have a concept of God has to be like
something being
this.
Brahman,
Yeah,
something of
yeah,
he has that Brahman.
yeah. But he's always, it's a vigraha. Is a personality. He comes and helps. I mean, when you are like that, right? You always look for God to come and help you.
Mhm.
So I'm just curious.
Hmm. Good question. We have Gopal Hari Prabhu. Gopal Hari Prabhu, do you have
Mathaji, I don't know if I can add anything further. Thank you for the very nice class. But I was just thinking that we all, when we don't relate with Krishna as a person, then we are in some sense we all are seeing him as impersonal. So Prabhu, you were saying how before becoming a devotee, you never even realized or thought about God being impersonal. But if we were not accepting him as personal, if we didn't if we were not in touch with his personal form, then we were treating him as impersonal because we were appreciating him only as the world or energy or some power there. So unless we actually know Krishna as a person, it is impersonalism. That's what I'm thinking. So, like Prabhupada says that we're all Mayavadis. Everyone is a Mayavadi unless we know Krishna's personality. We are Mayavadi because we are being impersonal towards Krishna. We're not being personal towards him.
Uh, I think it makes sense what you say. It's like how you grew up, your environment. In my olden days, I don't even know what's happening in my next road. That's it.
Mm,
So now the information is so much that it's bombarded left and right with wrong and rights. We don't know which one is what. That time, whatever is told my parents and the pujari in the temple, whatever harikatha we hear, we always hear Krishna comes as a person, comes and fights, do this, do that. So the concept of impersonal doesn't even know.
mm,
We always know God is like you and me. They had two, like when Prabhupada says two hands, four hands, Vishnu. So it was, as you said, it is all how you are being trained, not trained, you are being raised. Uh, but nowadays, I think Prabhupada making, because in the future, everybody comes and they have so much information. They
mm,
don't know what is right and what is wrong. So it is, I think it is probably it is right thing to tell what is right.
mm,
That is what acharyas are probably doing it. The emphasis goes because in olden days when we hear harikathas or anything in they never ever talked about Lord is impersonal. The
mm.
concept doesn't exist because that kind of information nobody gets it. So you don't have to tell them. But now you have so much information, probably that is why we have to tell them that this is not, this is yes. I was just thinking like that.
Yes, Prabhu. Yeah, just like in the Ramayana, like the Lord Ram is a person and he's so much a person, but even people read Ramayana and they say that Lord Ram is just a human and God is uh, God is impersonal. Like God is actually beyond Lord Ram. Even in the serial, the video you find, when they comment on it, then they say that we are all Ram or something like that.
Yeah. That I heard a little bit after I actually I when I came out of my town in India. That's where I heard in somebody saying that you are God, I am God. Until then, it was so. I mean, maybe it is fortune that we were in that situation and environment that these concepts were not even told the wrong concepts.
Yes.
No, no don'ts, all
No,
do's.
I'll do. Yeah.
No, thank you, Prabhu. No, sometimes I pick the brain of dude. How you used to think? Tell me. Sorry.
No, very nice.
Nice question.
No, it's not a question, man. It's just an
Oh,
understanding. No, thank you. I don't want to.
thank
Thank you, Hare
you.
Krishna.
Thank you,
Nice class,
Prabhupada.
Mataji.
Mataji, I just
Rantaraj.
wanted to add on this that I
Yes.
wanted to say that the point that you emphasized, that how the devotee attains all these qualities imperceptibly, or we can say with Prabhupada's sentence there, which I think you still have highlighted, like without
Yeah.
the one before that, one cannot
Yes.
discover how such good qualities develop in the body of a devotee. I was just wanting to reflect on what you're saying, that how that's so true. Like you see advanced devotees and you think, how do they get these qualities? Like how are they so nice? How are they so wonderful? Nice in the sense, how are they so wonderful in what in their in their dedication to Krishna. And this is sentence is so deep. It's so true what Krishna is saying. One cannot discover how they get these, but it actually happens.
Yes, Prabhu. And I think, to some extent, we do see a change even in ourselves. I mean, the
Mm.
persons that we were a few years ago versus, I mean, again, in person, I mean, long way to go, but still there are some things. I know that I used to be so anxious all the time, but that's kind of changed a little bit. So yeah, definitely the power of bhakti,
Thank you,
whatever
Mataji. I need
different.
to drop for my other office calls. Hare
Yes,
Krishna. Thank you.
Raj
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Hare Krishna.
कृपा सिंधु पतितानन पावने वैष्णवे नमो नमः। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। शिला प्रभुपाद की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। हरे कृष्ण।
Mm.